So in this case, we are not going to waste much time since we had a basic view from our previous class of the direct proportion. Remember, on your direct proportion, there are some quantities that we worked with, which we referred to that there are two quantities that are increasing at the same time. One is increasing, another one is increasing at the same time. One is decreasing, another one is decreasing. So they are it is happening at the same time. And we have what we refer to as a constant ratio, which is the same throughout. All right. So the opposite to this one, guys, is true. That is for the indirect proportion. That is a vice versa. If one variable this time is increasing, another one will be decreasing. So if one variable this time, if one variable increases, all right, if one variable increases, another, we are going to consider another one decreases. Another one decreases. That is the condition, and vice versa. Meaning to say, on a condition where this one is having a decrease, when this one decreases, we are going to have what? This one being increasing. So it will be increasing. So this one increases. That is the condition. So if there is, guys, an increase when this one is increasing, this one is what? Is decreasing, and vice versa. Those are the conditions of a rate. If you consider those calculations about a rate, where you're talking about the number of men doing a certain work, right? Those questions about a rate, not when it is fixed like our previous calculation where we had a calculation of that nature, but that one, it had a constant. The time that was given was being constant. So do not confuse with that one. So in this case, for these variables that we are talking about, that one is increasing, another one is decreasing. The product, this time we're going to take the product of the two variables is constant. That is the condition of this one. The product of what? Of the two variables. The product of what? Two variables is constant. So the product of what? The two variables, the variables that we are referring here, the variables, let's say we are referring to what? X and Y. Just gonna give an example. Let's say X and what? X and Y. So let's say we are saying it is a constant. Our constant, remember, is what? It's K. That is our constant here, K. So using this idea, we are simply saying K is equal to what? K is our constant. It is equal to the product. Product. Take note. We need the product of the two variables. So we are simply going to multiply them, X and Y. Product of the two variables. That's how you find the constant. Previously, on a direct proportion, K was what? The ratio of the two variables. The ratio of the two variables. The ratio. The constant is a ratio. This one over this. But for indirect, guys, it's not a ratio. The product of the two as they are. The product, X and Y as they are. So meaning to say, if you are using a table under an indirect proportion and you have a table which shows X and Y, this is how you're going to have it. I'm just going to give you a typical example. So e.g., for an example, we just have a smaller table here with X and this is Y like this. All right. So let's say we are given values that are for indirect proportion, like the condition of rate of work, let's say the time and also the number of men, let's say this is 5 and 4, then we have got this one 10, and this one is A. You want to calculate the value of A. You want to calculate A. From this concept, we are saying the product of the variables, the variable there is X and Y. So you multiply them this way, the product like this, the product like this, X and Y, X and Y, and equate them because we are saying it is equal. So therefore, from this idea that the product is the same throughout. Remember, when you say constant, we are saying this one is the same, throughout. Is the same. So meaning to say, if we take this, we multiply 5 times 4, X and Y, X times Y. It must be equal again to another X times Y, which is what? 10 times A, like this. This is the condition of how you answer your questions under an indirect. You multiply along this way. X and Y, the variables. That is the condition. It's a condition, guys. So let's solve for A. 5 times 4 is what? That's 20. We multiply these two. 5 times 4 is what? Is 20. Is equal to 10 times A. That is 10A. So dividing by 10 like this, you're going to have the value of A. Remember, we need to solve for what? For A. So A is equal to what? That was going to give us a 2. So this is our A, 2 here. So if we check, let's check here properly. Is this the same? 5 times 4, that is 20. 10 times 2, that is also 20. When we have 5, this one is 4. Look, guys, when X is increasing, it was 5. Now X is what? Is 10. Look what is happening to Y. It started as 4. Now it's at 2. It's decreasing. X is having an increase there. X. There's an increase. From 5 to 10, you are increasing. But from 4 going to 2, guys, what is it? That's a decrease. Remember, I talk about the Y values. Y started at 4. Now it's at 2. That's a decrease. So it shows that we are dealing with what here? Indirect. One is increasing, another one decreases. So that's the condition. So guys, we're going to answer questions. And also another part, when we are to draw a graph, we're going to notice that we are going to produce something of this nature because one is increasing, another one is what? Decreasing. So it's going to be something like this, which is a form of a hyperbola. It forms a graph which is referred to as what? As a hyperbola. But don't mind, guys, about these names. All right, just know that it's going to form about this shape, which is a hyperbola. If you mark those points properly, you'll see. And also from this one that we say K is equal to XY. We can write in any way. We can make, look here, guys. We say K is equal to XY. We can make Y the subject. We can divide by X like this. This cancels. So Y is equal to what? K over X. We could have made Y the subject from K is equal to XY. We could have made, X the subject. If we divide by Y like this one cancels. So X is equal to what? K over Y. So it's one and the same. Look, one is on top, one is in the denominator like this. It means this one is increasing, this one is decreasing. If it is like this one is increasing, this one is decreasing. So this is just like a presentation, but for you not to have confusion, use one equation, not to have many equations in your books, you end up having confusion. This is it. K is equal to what? XY. There, K is equal to what? Y over X. We're done. Direct proportion, K is equal to Y over X. Indirect, K is equal to XY, the product of the two variables. So let's see how to answer questions under an indirect proportion. Find the values of A and B. So this is under an indirect proportion. We are going to answer this under an indirect proportion. So we are being asked to find the values of A and B. Remember, under an indirect proportion, the constant K is the product of the two variables, X and Y. The two variables, the product. So we can use that one. All right. So to find the value of A and B, all right. So let's consider the first part. All right. So let's take this one to be our question number 1. All right. So on question number 1, using this condition, we're going to take them. Remember how you take the product of the variables. This is your X. This is your Y. So you multiply them this way. All right. This is your X. This is your Y. You multiply them this way. This is your X. This is your Y. You multiply them this way. That's how you multiply them. So it simply means these two, if I multiply them, it is equal to these two. So that's 6 times what? 6 times 4 must be equal to the product of these two. 8 times what? 8 times A. That is the condition. A, K is equal to X. The product is the same. So it simply means in the same way, if I take where it is complete, remember the first part here, it is complete. The first part, it is what? Complete. So I can say 6 times 4 again, X times Y, 6 times what? Times 4 must be equal to this one again. Same, it is the same throughout. So it must be also equal to this. B times what? Times 12. This is your condition. It is the same throughout. So with this, we have formed two equations where we can solve for A. This one you can solve for what? For B. So 6 times 4, that's going to be what? 24 is equal to 8 times 3, 8 times A, which is 8A, divided by 8 by 8. Remember, that's an equation. So you're going to divide this one. So we've got our A there. 24 divided by 8, that was going to give us 3. We do the same thing, 6 and 4, that's 24, remember? B times 12, that was going to be 12B like this, divide by 12 like this, so that this can cancel. You're going to remain with what? With B. So therefore, B is equal to what? 24 divided by 12, which is what? Which is 2. So this is how you're going to have the value of B and also the value of what? The value of A. Using the indirect concept. Indirect. One is increasing, one is decreasing. So there we are already told that it's a what? It's an inverse. So that's why we are using this, guys. We're already told. Otherwise, if it was for a direct, we're going to use another part. Number 2, the same way, guys. Remember, we're dealing with what? Indirect. K is the product of the two variables. So using this, we can answer, therefore, our product, two variables, X and Y. 0,4 times 2,5. This product must be equal to this one. Also, 0,2 times what? Times A. X times Y. And this part where it is complete, here we've got where we do not have any variable, there it is complete. We take it as it is again. 0,4 times what? 2,5 must be equal to this one, which is 4 times what? 4 times B. Two equations formed at the same time. We can solve these two. So you can multiply, guys. This is your grade 9. Be used to your calculator again. So you're going to need the product of these two, 0,2 and what? 2,5. 0,4 and 2,5. So 0,4 times 2,5. Okay. 2,5. All right. Need a comma here. 2,5 like this. So that's 1. All right. So 1 is equal to 0,2 times A. That's 0,2A. So you're going to divide by what? 0,2 divide by 0,2 both sides like this. So you're going to remain with what? With A. So 1 divide by 0,2. That's 1 here. Divide by what? 0,2. Okay, I don't know why is it this low, but anyways, let's see. That was going to give us what? A 5. So A is equal to 5. To this one, we do the same thing. Remember, this one already we multiplied 0.4 and 2.5. We got a 1. So 1 is equal to 4 times b, which is what? 4b. You need b, so simply divide by what? By 4 like this. So that was going to give us the value of b, which is 1/4 as it is. Or you can have it as a decimal, guys. It's up to you. Or you can have it as a decimal 0.25. You can even use your calculator there. So that's how you answer questions, guys. All right? Indirect proportion or inverse proportion. One and the same. They can call it inverse. On this question, we had a similar question, but guys, be careful with this one. It is different to what we had. They are saying if 6 men can dig a ditch in 2 hours, how many men would be required to dig the ditch? Guys, what is referred here is the ditch. We are referring the ditch as our constant this time. The same thing. So let's put it into reality. In our reality, guys, you have, let's say, a certain work to be done. All right? Even to clean a house. Just to clean a house. All right? So to clean the whole house that you are given, to clean it, let's say you hire 2 people to clean it. They take 3 hours. 2 of them, they take 3 hours. 2 people. All right. Like I said, let's be realistic, guys. What about 1 person to clean the same house? Now, we want to know the number of hours. Is it going to be more or is it going to be less? Same house. Same rate. 1 person. This person is going to cover more hours, guys. They are talking about an individual, 1 person. This person is going to cover more hours than this, which is the opposite to what we know. 2 is covering less because we are comparing, it's going to be less. Whatever that you're going to have for 1 is going to be more than 3 hours. A smaller number is covering more. That's an inverse. This is the condition of a rate. The same way that we're answering those questions of a rate. You were saying 6 men, right? The number of men is going to cover or is going to take what? 2 hours. How many men? You need to know the number of men that will dig the same ditch, but in 3 hours. Guys, this one is going to be an inverse reality that we are talking about. Because in 3 hours here, the time is more. More time, it means it was done by less people, the less number of men. That is why we've got more time. All right? Remember, this is time this side. Men, the number of men, and this is the time. 2 hours, less time, it means there were many. The more number of men, the lesser time it takes to finish a job in a reality. This is condition of a rate. So a condition of a rate, guys, you were answering how? You were multiplying along like this to find your answers. 6 times 2 is equal to what? X times 3, which is 3x. 6 times 2, which is what? 12 is equal to 3x. You divide by 3. You divide by 3. You find your x, which is what? Which is 4. So you're talking about what? 4. We are calculating what? The number of men. So you're talking about what? 4 men. 4 men will need 3 hours. They are less. But look at the time. More time. It is an inverse. It's not going in a direct way. Direct, guys, when 1 increases, another one is supposed to increase. Look what we had here. It is 2 hours. All right. 6 men. All right. How many hours? 3 hours. What we're supposed to get? We're supposed to get something which is more because it is increasing, but this is not. It is vice versa. Look how many men? 4. When one is increasing, the time is increasing, but on the number of men, there is a decrease. You are answering these questions this way using that concept of a rate. So nothing has changed, guys. So using this concept now of our indirect proportion of that table, using the table method, this is what you're going to have. You name your quantities that you have. Let X be what? The number of men. All right? So you're going to let X represent the number of men and Y represent another quantity, which is what we are given the time in what? In hours. So we're going to have our table like this using the table method. That's another way. That is from our proportion concept, indirect. So we say this is X, this is Y like this. We fill what we are given. We put the values of what we are given. Remember, these are two conditions. The first condition and the one that we are being asked. So on our table, you just need what? Two conditions. So what is our first condition? Remember X, number of men. Let me just write so that we do not confuse each other. This is time. So X is the number of men, 6 of them. We are given X, number of men, 6. Can dig in what? 2 hours. Time. Y there, time. Then how many men? We need what? The number of men we do not know. So you can just call it A. Can dig a ditch in what? 3 hours. Time is given there as what? As 3 hours. This is what we have. So from this condition, we saw that from the reality of the look of our information, this one is what? An indirect. That's an indirect proportion. One is increasing, another one is decreasing. So that's an indirect proportion. An indirect proportion, how do you answer your questions? K, our constant, is the product of the two variables, product, X and Y. So we can answer our question to say the product of the two variables is the same. So these two multiplied together must give us these two multiplied together. So you're going to form an equation. You solve for A from there. Just like our previous case, we're going to get the same answer. All right, so let's quickly solve this one. 6 times 2. So you're going to have 6 times 2 must be equal to what? A times 3, which is 3 times A. All right. 6 times 2, that's 12, is equal to A times 3, which is 3A divided by 3 here, because the product. So you're going to have the value of what? The value of A, this one. So A is equal to what? 12 divided by 3, which is 4. Which is A representing what? Yeah, A. A is under what? The number of men. So we are talking about what? 4 men. So this is the same answer that we got. So 4 men will be needed. We're talking about 4 men will be needed to complete this job in what? In 3 hours. So you can have that as a conclusion. So these are the typical questions that you're going to be given. We are going to have exam questions from now onwards. We are going to have questions because we've done with the introductions for both direct and indirect proportion. So we're going to have question papers just for you to figure out. So as you answered the questions, I want you guys do not have any confusion. If you understand how to answer those ratios and rate questions, use the same way that you were answering those questions when you're given the rate of work, when you're given increase and decrease values. I talked about that on another class. If you understand that way, use that same way. But if you understand this, you're going to use this. But on the next classes that I'm going to be working with, I'm going to be focusing with this table method so that we get used to it. But you can compare with your previous ways of answering your questions. This is what I'm trying to say. We are saying, okay, we already did this one to say 6 is equal to what? 6 is equal to 2. A is equal to what? 3. So where you are dealing with what? With a condition of a rate of work, when I what? Multiply along like this. So 6 times 2 is equal to what? 8 times 3. It was same as it was given like this, or it was given on a table like this. Same way. Do not have any confusion. So from now, do as many questions as you can. Revise many question papers. You'll see that it will be a repetition. They'll be repeating these questions. They might not repeat the values. Yes, sometimes they can even repeat the values. So do revise many question papers so that you get the idea. But there's nothing, guys. That's it till we meet again.